Tonight on Kitchen All Over the World, I'm making Chiko rolls. Chiko? 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 Chicken? Australian egg rolls. Join me. So, Australians being the purveyors of meat pies and all things meat in dough related, in this case, it's going to be a lamb-filled egg roll. So starting with the dough, let's sift 1 cup of flour into the bowl of our stand mixer. And on top of that, we're going to add an egg that's been thoroughly beaten, as well as a tablespoon of water. Let's mix this until it comes together as a smooth, elastic mass, and wrap it up in plastic wrap and throw it in the fridge for at least an hour, but you could also leave this overnight if you want to do it the next day. Now for the filling, we're going to go ahead and put a pan onto medium-high heat and throw in a nice knob of butter, because everything's better with butter. Come on. Give it a good swirl around the pan just to make sure. And we're going to go ahead and add in a sliced up onion, a grated carrot, and a thinly sliced stalk of celery. I really wish that celery was sold by the stalk rather than by the bunch, because I don't know anyone who has actually used an entire bunch of celery. And on top of that, we're going to add about a cup of shredded cabbage. And let's sweat these until the onions are a little translucent and everything's sort of wilted. After that, let's take a cube of chicken bouillon or chicken stock, break it up and mix it in. Here I've got about a half a kilo of lamb shoulder. I'm using shoulder because it has a decent amount of fat on it, but you can use any cut of lamb that you prefer, or if you don't like lamb, figure something out. Once the lamb is nice and brown, I just couldn't let that fond at the bottom go to waste, so the recipe doesn't call for it, but I always like to deglaze a little bit and mix that sort of into the flavor of the rest of the dish. So here I'm using a Shaoxing cooking wine, but you can use any white wine, even a red wine might do. Just a little bit, just a tablespoon, just to get that a little bit of brown off the bottom of the pan. That also adds a little bit of liquid to the mix because it is kind of a dry mixture. And that'll help with our next step, which is adding a tablespoon of flour into the filling. This will thicken it up a little bit. You'll have a little bit of a sauciness to it. Should make things a little bit tastier. And be sure to add a adequate amount of black pepper and some salt, just to taste, as much as you want. Now that our dough has been sitting in the fridge for a little bit, let's take it out and start rolling it. We want to make this into about a foot by foot or 14 inch by 14 inch sort of rectangle shape. Then we're gonna go ahead and divide this into 8 pieces rather than trying to mess with squares. Since this is a circle, I cut this like a pizza because it's easier and I'm lazy. Once they're all about the same size, we're gonna roll these into little balls and then roll them out into 8 inch by 8 inch squares. Now, contrary to what you would think, the corners start forming in the direction that you're rolling the dough. Think of it as rolling it out diagonally instead of straight up and down. And you'll eventually sort of start to get a squarish shape. It'll never be perfect, just like you'll never be perfect, but that's okay. So now to assemble, we're gonna spoon a little bit of the filling into the middle of a wrapper. We're gonna fold up the edge and kind of pull it back a little bit like a joint. Then we're gonna fold in the edges and roll the rest up, being sure to moisten the edge with some egg wash. Again, just like a joint. I wonder who thought of this food. I wonder what the impetus was for creating this tasty fried treat. Next, we're gonna heat up some vegetable oil to probably 375 Fahrenheit. I usually just go for like medium high, but depends on your stove. So once it is good and bubbly, let's drop in our egg rolls. Sorry, Chiko rolls, and fry them on either side until they're about golden brown. Everything inside is cooked, so you don't have to worry about making sure the filling is fully cooked at this point. You just want the outside to be nice and golden and crispy and bubbly, just the way you like it. just as I'm about to film the tasting, which I'm excited for. Look at those guys. My battery died. So luckily my lav mic is still working, so audio should be a-okay. Regardless, I've got my thongs, I've got my singlet. I wish I had a big old can of VB, but I'll have to settle for a big old can of Modelo. Oh yeah. Okay, so as you've seen, this is basically a spring roll slash egg roll, but with westernized ingredients inside. I mean, come on. To be honest, this has a lot more in common with the dumpling vlog that I made that time, as well as any other, like, it just tastes Central European because of lamb and onions. For some reason, lamb and onions wrapped up in a dumpling of some sort just screams Central Europe to me. It's so good. I've got some sriracha mayo here. I'm gonna dip that in and see if it ups the flavor. Lamb and sriracha surprisingly go amazingly together. So what I gotta say is, I don't know if it's the egg or what, but the even though I rolled it as thin as a standard wonton slash spring roll wrapper would be, it's still slightly thicker and has this tooth to it that adds something. And I just dig that. And just the flavor of the lamb, it tastes so much cleaner than American style Chinese egg roll. It's less greasy, less salty, if you want to explore Australian food. And you don't want to do the standard meat pie sausage roll, which are undoubtedly delicious. Try one of these out. This is so good. So good. That's all I got to say about that. Cheers.